Okay, there you are. Good good day everybody for the Litera students, especially for the C32 students of mine under the College of Business and Accountancy. So I know that you do have actually a general assembly as you have mentioned in our group chat. So pertains to that, since I don't want to I can't afford that we'll begin to delay with our class deliverables, as I don't want to engage in specific special classes in the future. So I've come up with a decision that I'll begin to send specific video, pre-recorded video, for the sake that you could catch up with our first lesson for this course. So I want you to really listen and watch this video, since you will know what will going to happen if if I have successfully discussed something. You know what to expect, and if you're not really that keen observant, especially for our class rules, it's not my problem at all. Okay. So our discussion for today is actually all about the generations, um the let me just go next, the Gen Z and the rise of information technology. However, we will not be going to focus with Gen Z here alone. We have to discuss the other generations as well, since that it is actually important that we'll begin to work on, or you must understand what are the other generations apart from the generations where you belong, since I you've known actually um that we are part with the Generation Z. Now, since for the sake that you don't have any classes for today, and I am this kind of teacher that, if ever that there will be such activities, for example, especially in your college, then there will be no official statement or memo from the office of the president. So therefore I need to provide a specific pre-recorded video in order for you to watch, and then there will be a specific activity or quizzes afterwards. It depends on the situations. It's okay to not be okay, actually, under my supervision. That is really Sir Max, though, so far. So since for the marketing management and financial management under my supervision, I know that we can't have any face-to-face class for this first deliverables. I don't want to delay our classes, so let's actually discuss what will going to happen. For this topic, we will be going to work on this will be the objectives that we'll begin to discuss for this week. This is actually understanding who the Gen Z and Gen Z are and who they are perceived. You have to distinguish the difference between Gen Z from the other generations. That's why we will begin to discuss as well the other generations apart from the Gen Z. Know how the Gen Zs control the social media, and you have to be aware the effects of the internet to us humans. And you will also know how technology affecting us humans and the world. And you will be informed on how technology has changed over time. So you know what, I am very particular in such cases if what will be the thing that I've discussed here. Most likely I'm not trying to based with a presentation, with a PowerPoint presentation into my quizzes. Everything will be revised, and if ever that you were not able to understand fully in the video or in the discussion, that's not my fault anymore, because of course, as students as you are, you have to be careful that you have to study hard, to study, or you have to work on within your own way, actually. So therefore, let's actually proceed with the other generations. This is actually the silent generations, the first generations, which is from the 1928 up until 1945. When we say silent generation, that actually refers to those born between 1928 up until the the year 1945. They grew up during a time of economic hardship, Great Depression, and were shaped by the event of World War II. This generation is often noted for their more conservative views and respect for authority and traditions. So at this time, there will be authoritarian stage. Actually, there will be officials that will begin to rule the community. For example, they are definitely the one who will decide what will going to happen for the citizens. For example, they are definitely having this kind of wielded power, if we can say, if we can describe that one, that is considered as wielded power. However, because they are not listening what will be their good thing, or what will be their um what could have been better, especially if this will be the thing that the citizens really like. They are not listening to the pulse of the society then. So here then, since World War II, we all know that there's a lot of struggles behind during those time. So of course, that's why hardship is from the word hardship, they're having a lot of challenges, they're struggling much. So the characteristics for for the silent generation, for the traditional, they are actually valuing the hard work, loyalty, and respect for authority. So in this generation, they are much respecting into those having those authorities, especially for those government officials or the one who rule the nation. For example, if there will be say I'm not really particular into their into in the field of the history, since that is a different scope. However, at this time, we can assume that there may be concurs from the other country, for example. So the discipline and conservative at this time, they often took a cautious approach to change and were less likely to challenge the status quo. So what is happening at this time, they're definitely are really disciplined, and what will be the rules, or may mga pamahiin pa na, they're really conservative. For example, if you may touch the hair of this specific girl, so you will be obliged to marry that woman, for example. So that's how it worked in that kind of era. And then the characteristics for the strong work ethic, they are focusing on stability, long-term employment, and building financial security. So in this generation, they're much probably working on for the better of their own. Like they really need to work on, like in their boss, mapapapel sila, or something like that. And they're definitely working much pretty much respecting their bosses, or for example, they're not like our generations that pretty much demanding a sort of like that. So privacy and modesty, generally private and modest about their personal lives. So of course, there may be at times that for in terms of privacy, since everyone is actually being respected at this time. And of course, we are trying to observe those mga pamahiin pa at that time. So pretty much in terms of privacy and modesty, it's not like in our generations that we do have like we can say that the freedom is really being observed. So for the silent generation, they are loyal to institutions, strong adherence to traditional institutions like family, religions, and government. As what I've mentioned, that in their generations, that they're pretty much observing to the rules of their parents, to the rules of their family, what will be the traditions of their family, or of their tribe, for example. They're trying to observe those kind of demeanor. They're not trying to change those kind of behavior. So they're really conservative, in short. Now, those are their characteristics of the silent generation, and let's move on into the baby boomers. This is the second generation, which is actually from the in the year of 1946 and up until 1964. So, in this generations, they are born during the post World War II period when there was a significant increase in birth rates, especially in the in Western countries. They were raised into a time of economic prosperity and political stability. So if we might what we call this one in this generation, if we'll begin to deal with regards to the technology, it's not like generation Z that we're pretty much having a lot of advanced technology, but at this time they're still observing um a few changes from the World War II. Since in the World War II, they're pretty much not having this kind of advanced technology yet. So in this state, they were raised in a time of economic prosperity and political stability. Baby boomers were central to cultural and social changes of the 1960s and 1970s. So pretty much there's a little bit of improvement at this stage, and the characteristics that they do have is actually they're optimistic, they're idealistic, came of age during a time of economic growth and social change. So pretty much there's a bit of changes. They're adapting a new changes actually in their era. Work centric. When we say work centric, they're emphasizing that job security, often working a long term careers. They're pretty much if in layman's term they're gahalong sila sa ila work in order for them to maintain their relationship with their boss, for example, not like in our generations that there is a lot of improvement like virtual assistant that pretty much you will be the one to demand in terms of the salary matters. In their era, they're definitely respecting that much in terms of their bosses and whatsoever. Now, much of the characteristics here, technologically adaptable, grew up with radio and television, and later adapted to personal computers and the internet. So, if we'll begin to work on with the history of computers, so at this time there will be computers already. However, that those are the computers which is looks like a house, for example. However, the capacity for those kinds of computers, mga MB pa na, it's not like our generations nga, we're having this terabytes capacity, but in those generation, mga megabytes pa ni siya. However, mga dagko pa katama ang ilang system unit, not like our generations that it could be handheld. We do have laptops, we do have this iPads and whatsoever. Now, in terms of individualistic, known for the cultural shifts, they initiated civil rights and feminism. So they're adopting pretty much of improvement in terms of they do have their own perspective already in terms of their rights, and for the civic minded, strong political activism, especially in their younger years. So in terms of the civic situations, they're pretty much having their own political polarization. They do have their own stances already. They could stand of what they what they really believe, and they do have a bit of freedom, of course. To they do have a freedom of choice already here that they will begin to stand for this specific person or whatsoever. So now let's actually move on to the Generation X. And for the Generation X, actually, this is actually arising from 1965 up until the year 1980. So Generation X is the cohort born between 1965 and 1980, as what I mentioned earlier. They are known as the first generation to experience a world shaped by the rise of personal computers. So if in the generation of baby boomers, pretty much the computers is not really advanced. However, in the Generation X, personal computers is also changing already. The internet and increasing amount of societal change often sees as the latchkey generation. Many Gen X grew up with both parents working, leading to greater independence. So at this time, they since in terms of technology, there will be advancement already that happen. So in terms of personal computers, a bit of advancement, maybe it turns into a bit of advance already. We can't say that they do have gigabytes already. However, at least shifted into a new unuseful computers. If you can see those old particular computers, at least they do have advancement already, and they may be tech savvy at this time already. Now, they're also independent and resourceful. So they grew up in a more economically challenging environment than baby boomers, leading to a stronger sense of self-reliance. So they're absolutely independent. We can say that they're independent pretty much, since in terms of like, if they do have such idea in terms of what they wanted to do, so they could decide what will be the good thing for themselves. They could be in terms of educations, pretty much it is already existing here at this case, at this generation. So tech savvy they witness the rise of the personal computers and the internet. So for if we'll begin to work if we'll begin to picture out for the internet improvement, we can say that there may be at this time 2G already, from 1G 2G, from the analog system. However, I don't be excited in terms of those generations, because we will begin to tackle that separately in our final term, maybe. Um, Tech savvy witnessed the rise of personal computers and the internet, making them first to experience the digital revolution. So at this time, there will be a computer, many computers already existing, unlike with our baby boomers, a time that few computers are not really that tech savvy. However, at this time they're much educated already. Okay, they also have these characteristics of skeptical and cynical, more cynical due to the economic uncertainty of 1970s and 1980s, as well as political scandals like Watergate. So in this generation, they are much like aware of what is going on around. They could decide what will be their perspective. For example, they're not depending into this into the decision of the other individuals, not like with the other generations, that pretty much they're definitely basing on those they have authorities, since at those time authoritarian is really existing. Now, a work-life balance. They often sees work-life balance having witnessed the high-stress work cultures of baby boomers, and at this case, they are definitely, we can say that mga ano na sila, tutom na sa work, and they are witnessing the high-stress work cultures already. There will be, in terms of work, maybe pressure na and more rules being implemented. And they are cultural pioneers, played a central role in the rise of alternative music, grunge, and the early internet. So there may be at times that most of the technology here is a bit of improving. We can say that the CDs, mga CD tape are existing here, or yung mga ano na, yung karaoke set may be existing at this time. Okay, after the Generation X, the millennials time is also existing, which is also known as the Generation Y after the Generation X. So this is actually from the year 1981 up until the 1996. They are characterized by their deep engagement with technology, especially the internet, social media, and mobile devices. As digital natives, they are more connected and have experienced the explosions of the internet and in their lives. So in this case, class, for the millennials or the Generation Y, pretty much they're tech savvy, and of course the internet will be advanced. Maybe they are having that 3G network already, unlike with those Generation X that slow internet connection. However, a bit of technology advance, and pretty much they're tech savvy as well. However, that it's not really um a bit of like millennials, that they're much aware of what is really going on in terms of the advancement. Now they're also tech savvy here. They grew up with the internet, mobile phones, and social media platform, making them very comfortable with technology. So in this era, social media is arising. Maybe we can say that mga keypad nga phones is existing here, like yung mga for Facebook.com is existing in this era already. However, we can say that in millennials time that they do have advanced equipment like the mga iPhones. No, iPhones is actually existing way back 2007, if I can still remember. And socially conscious. They are often socially aware, advocating for causes such as environmental sustainability, LGBTQIA plus rights, and racial equality. So in this stage, or in their era, they're pretty much like they do have their own perspective. They do have their own ano ni siya tawag, advocacy that they're trying to advocate. For example, since socially conscious, what will be that they could see lack in their community, they're trying to advocate those kind of cases. And work flexibility. When we say work flexibility, millennials value flexible in their work lives, preferring options like remote works and flexible hours. Those fortunate enough, therefore, those I mean, fortunate individuals, they might work in flexible hours or remote work, since internet is existing at this in this era. 3G network is arising in this era. So therefore, they're observing work from home setup and flexible hours. They may go into the office, and a little bit of advancement is really existing at this stage. And then education focused. They are highly educated. They are and value self improvement, often seeking higher education and skill development. So, therefore, in terms of education here or education setup, they're pretty much um, l- they do have the goal to finish their degree, just like in our era, that pretty much the education is one of our weapon in order for us to secure a very good work in the future or job in the future. So they're observing this kind of demeanor already, so we were able to adapt this kind of demeanor in our generation as well. However, in our generation, pretty much there is a lot of advancement existing. Okay, now in terms of this delayed milestone, in delayed milestone, millennials tend to delay major life milestone like marriage, buying a home, having children due to economic uncertainty. So in this era, amo na siya nga, we can say that damo-damo ng mga ano ni siya, single ano na siya tawagan, isang ano man single nga term sa Hiligaynon. I really don't know what's that in layman's term. Like for example, they're not trying to choose to marry someone, or because they want stable work. They want stable life. Say since they're not pretty much what do you call this, hindi pa sila contented. They're not contented of what they do have. So they really wanted to have or to explore more for more in order for them to like they don't want this kind of lifestyle. 'Di ba? So they're wise enough in this generation. So let's actually move on in terms of Generation Z, which is from the year 1997 up until the year 2012. So Gen Z, also known as the Gen Z or I generation, includes individuals born from the 1997 up until 2012. So we are considered as Generation Z. We are the Gen Zers actually. They are the first generation who grow up fully immersed in the digital age, where smartphones, social media, and digital technology are integral parts of their lives from an early age. So pretty much there's a bit of improvement. There's a lot of improvement in our generations actually. We do have the social media platforms advanced. We do have the smartphones, advanced smartphones, technology or IoT driven already. So There's a lot of advancement in our generation. In terms of digital natives, this is the characteristics. Unlike millennials, Gen Z was born into a world with high speed internet, into a world having good smartphones, social media, making them exceptionally tech savvy. So we're definitely um tech savvy expert. We can definitely explore a lot of things. We can definitely learn new things easily because of those advancement. We can definitely learn pretty much with new kinds of advancement, mga new games or mga new platforms. We're pretty much learning those kind of platforms easily. Highly individualistic. What does it mean? Gen Z tends to value uniqueness. Um, I'm so sorry. My phone is actually ringing. So Gen Z tends to value uniqueness and sorry. Let me just silent it for a while. Okay. Now let's actually proceed. So tends to value uniqueness and diversity with an emphasis on self-expression, inclusivity. So there, in our generation, we're improving. We're aside from advocating, so we're trying to do have our freedom of speech, self-expression. We're having those kind of situations. We're in our generation, inclusivity is pretty much being observed. So just like for example, if you belong to specific like LGBTQIA plus that has been observed in our generation because of course even though that we don't have a specific law that could cover those kind of um LGBTQIA plus community. However, there will be laws also that could cover like bawal bastos law or whatsoever. Soji bills is not really that much improved. But pretty much we'll not be going to really discuss those kind of things. So we will begin to focus in terms of technologies then. Okay, mental health awareness. Those are the characteristics which generation is more open about discussing mental health issues and is often more aware of its important than previous generation. So at this level, so pretty much we might encounter like mental health is one of the main problem in our generation. And of course, we're also mentally I mean, in terms of mental health, mas aware na tayo sa kalatabo. And then, of course, we're trying to observe, mas ano na gani, mas, ano ni siya gani, mas, I can't really express that in layman's term. Okay, hindi na lang. So, pretty, ay nako, mental block na akes. So, in terms of mental health awareness, you're trying to advocate, since this is a problem of in our generation, most likely you're trying to advocate what will be the action plan that could provide solutions in terms of mental health problem, in terms of in those kind of generations that might might encounter such problems like this. So in terms of entrepreneurial and innovative, Gen Z is highly entrepreneurial, often seeking to build personal brands or business through social media and other platforms. In our generation, we might damo-damo na sang mga business individuals, mga business minded na, open-minded ka ba? Just like you, as marketing management students, just like you as financial management student, you're trying to learn pretty much in terms of business how to plan out such a good business. This is your field. This is your that's why you're trying to study in this kind of particular field in order for you to improve for more, diba? So pretty much you're trying to expand for more because you're not contented of what you do have. And then socially conscious. Like millennials, they are socially and environmentally aware with strong views on social justice and environment sustainability. So, what will be the problem in our society. You're pretty much you are also observing what will be the thing that could what will be the thing that we could provide, what will be the solutions that we could provide then. Pretty much those are the thing that we're also observing in our society right now, especially for our generations as Gensers. Now, let's actually move on for the generations A, which is the generation Alpha. So in our generation, in the generation of Alpha, this is actually from the year 2013 onwards up until 2025. So since we're actually in the year of 2026, so pretty much different years already. Generation Beta is also existing. However, we'll not be going to tackle Generation Beta anymore. Okay, so Generation Alpha is the current generation born from the 2013 onward. They're growing up in an era of rapid technological advancement where AI, virtual reality, and increasingly sophisticated devices are integral to their lives. This generation will experience an even more connected world where technology is deeply embedded in all aspects of life. So as world keeps on innovating, as our technologies keep on improving, so therefore in generation alpha they're pretty much more advanced than than the Generation Z. If Generation Z is having this kind of social media platforms, this kind of advancement of technology, however, in Generation Alpha, pretty much more advanced. Bata pa lang gani, gakukamelo na. Bata pa lang gani, basi gastado na, if, basi gastado na sila laws and obligations, di ba? So pretty much more advanced. So damo-damo na mga bata nga engage into this kind of new technological advancement. Some in our generation, pretty much if kung bata ka pa katama, ano ka pa, gina ano ka pa sang parents mo, ginaduyan ka pa, like those, I don't know if that's still existing in our generation. Or hindi na mag-ano balahaw, mayaya-yaya pa. Pero asang times ang Generation Alpha, pretty much more music na lang, play na lang music and then or Cocomelon or whatsoever just to give I mean if maghibi ang bata amo na lang na ang ginahatag. So those are the kinds of improvement that we can actually see in our the generations of Alpha then. So Tech Immerse. Generation Alpha is expected to be even more connected and immerse technology than any generation before, potentially growing up with AI, virtual reality, and advanced robotics. So, and this kind of generation, pretty much mga computer scientists, information technologists, they're still working on with specific problem, kung anong mga problem that they're trying to solve that kind of problem, they're trying to optimize those kind of situations in order for them to build a new technology, this kind of new advances. So that's why we can definitely see may bag-o naman nga technology in the few years to come. For example, right now actually quantum computing is really existing. However, that remains unsolvable. However, hopefully that we in the few years to come might somebody could provide solutions in terms of quantum computing. So, di ba? Base kamo na gali in the futures. And then afterwards, highly educated. With advancement in technology, they will likely have access to more educational resources and tools than any previous generation. However, the bad sides here, pretty much Generation Alpha could also depend on AI, artificial intelligence. So actually, class, be mindful that AI is just a tool. They are they are just an aid for us to improve our learnings. For example, we can train AI in order for us to gain insights. For example, we will not be going to let AI empower us because we are the rational individual, not the AI. They are actually they are performing on how they were actually being implemented in their algorithm, kung ano ang mga kung ano ang pag-build sang ila, for example, because that is dealing with semantical processing in terms of NLP. If you're computer science, you might relate into that. So pretty much we'll not be going to really deal in terms of those difficult complex things. Now, let's actually work on with socially aware. Gen Alpha is predicted to be even more aware of global social issues such as climate change, inequality, and mental health. So, from those era, in terms of millennial advocacies, are pretty much existing. However, in this generation, we're pretty much aware of what is really happening around us, and of course, we can implement of a new program that could strengthen or that could beat those kind of problems. Now, in terms of global citizens, growing up in a hyper-connected world, they are expected to have a more global perspective and be more open-minded about cultural differences. So, respecting other various like if they are belong to specific groups or tribes, we're pretty much respecting those kind of specific sectors. And then adaptive to change. We're pretty much adapting to what will be the innovations that happened in our technologies. They will likely be more flexible in adapting rapid technological advancement, given the fast-paced world they're growing up in. So therefore, there's a bit of improvement in this case. So let's actually deal with Gen Z. Ano lang, we will begin to focus with Gen Z. Just to recap, Gen Z refers to individuals who were born in the mid 2000s, born into an increasingly digital age. This generation has been using the internet from a very young age, and it has become quite adept at it. So therefore, Gen Z is the first to be born into a time when the technology is really existing between 1997 up until 2012 into a world of vast technological advancement and innovation. They are unlike other generations who either grew up without or came into adulthood during the rise of social media, smartphones, and instant accessibility of information. So those are the things that pretty much what we call this um those are the generations, the advancement of our generations actually. Now, the impact of technology on Generation Z, there will be positive and negative impact. What are those positive and negative impact? Let's actually deal with the positive first. Increase the commitment on social cause, better employment aspects in the future, and access to information. When we say increase commitment on social cause, we have to thank the social media and other tools since youngsters are now aware of what is happening in our communities as well as global issue. Many children and young adults are now signing up for various social causes such as animal rights protection, women empowerment, and social conservationism. In terms of increase of commitment to social cause class, we might we do have improvement in terms of what is the problem in in our generation, what will be the problem, what will be the improvement that we can even participate then. We can participate in such advocators. We can also join in any sector, like for example leadership or and any advancement. For example, they do have advocacies like LGBTQIA rights, and you're trying to join or sign up into those kind of sectors, for example, or group that could really improve or strengthen what will be the problem that is existing in our generations then. I'm so sorry, class, if I'm really that fast in terms of speaking. I'm not that kind of teachers that will be going to really um padugay-dugayon pa bala ang discussion nyo. I'm not like that one. Okay, so since this is just a pre-recorded video, and for the sake since we don't have any face-to-face class due to the program or due to the um general assembly in your college, so this is for us to really cope up with our lessons for this week, as I don't want to delay in our topic. Now, better employment aspects in the future. Let's actually move on. Since they have been born and raised in the age of internet, Gen Zers are actually considered as ultra tech savvy. They are quick at learning how to operate the latest tools and gadgets. As more and more businesses are investing in to streamline their operations, it could create more job opportunities for Gensers in the future. Actually, class, in terms of better employment, in our generations, there's a lot of advancement. We can actually apply online. especially if you do have this kind of personal computers, if you do have this kind of technologies, if you do have um internet platforms, for example. um of course, you can definitely just search in your own, like mga freelancers.com, fiverr.com. There is a lot in order for you to secure such employment, what we call the placement. For example, if you wanted to really work on with in terms of mga virtual assistant or ESL teachers, there's a lot of kind of work, so just like those. Okay, access to information. When we say access to information, with the abundance of information available online, Gen Zers may end up making better decisions than millennials and baby boomers. Similarly, the development of technology is likely to create more specialist field of interest for Gen Zers, such as social media marketing and social engine optimization. In this generation, in our generation, we might easily access to what will be the informations online. We can easily use Google platform, what is this, or you can actually search pretty much like vlog or informations to any other individuals that could provide a better solutions or like feedback, or that could um that will be our aid, that could somewhat be ano ni siya man, that we can learn from their ano siya, best practices, for example. So let me actually pause for a while as I have to drink water. Okay, thank you so much for waiting. This will be, let's actually continue for the negative impact. For the negative impact class, um, will be having low self-esteem, lack of confidence, risk of cyberbullying. So let's actually define each of them. What is low self-esteem? That is limiting outdoor activities and spending more time on social media has been linked to depression and low self-esteem. It is possible that Gen Zers will be shyer and more socially awkward as compared to millennials and baby boomers. So why that they will begin to experience like this? Why? Because too much utilizing this kind of technology, this is the negative impact. It could actually lead to self anxiety. For example, if you as a student, if you as a individual, you're trying to compare yourself with the achievement of others. Say for example, you as yourself, pretty much, why nga kaya ni sang iban, why not me, 'di ba? Of course, you're actually shy to collaborate with any other individuals. You're actually tend to have this kind of basi hindi ni gali amo ang akong perspective. So I don't want to showcase my talent, my perspective to other because I might be judged. So of course it could low your it could not boast your self-confidence. It could lower your self-esteem. So in that um if you do have this if you do have low self-esteem, it could impact, you could have lack of confidence. You might have this one. As self-esteem decreases, gensers are likely to face confidence issues. Why? Because of course, because of your intuition and your mind, you're trying to think that if I will begin to say this into into my classmate that I do have this kind of idea, what if that they will begin to neglect my ideas? What if that they will begin to judge me because I am bubo lang kuya. I do have this kind of grade level. I do have this kind of grade ano lang, ara lang sa average. Then my group mates is actually a bit of advanced. So you might have this consciousness na you will not be going to showcase your idea, and that will trigger your confidence level. That's why in our class, I'm actually tolerating those kind of demeanor, especially time to time. It will be more challenging if we're trying to discuss this in face-to-face class because I will be going to ask you individually what will be your perspective before I'll be going to discuss this particular topic. That's how we actually work. However, due to the time constraints that we cannot have discussions face-to-face because of your general assembly, hopefully that you will be going to listen this in our discussion, and of course prepare for something that you might experience next time or next meeting, because anyway, surprises is definitely arising anytime in my class. I'm not threatening you, huh? This is actually my goal is to boast your self-confidence. I don't want you to experience to have low self-esteem, but nevertheless, I wanted you to to have good self-confidence at the end of the semester. That's my focus in terms of my students for living in IT era. And I already proved that. All of my students were able to explain their ideas. They are welcome. Even if you commit mistake, don't be afraid of committing mistake. Now, while Gensers are fairly confident about their tech skills, they may lack the confidence to ace a job interview, having a pleasant date night, or develop deep, meaningful relationship. So if you do have low self-esteem class, even gani paghambal sang iya nga, palangga ta kabala, hindi mo gidya mahambal. 'Di ba? Gusto ta kabala, hindi mo gidya mahambal. Especially if you wanted to apply, then if you do have low self-esteem, how could you ace for a job if you don't have, if your lack of self-confidence? So nevertheless, we'll be going to work on, we'll be going to improve as early as possible that kind of situations, if you do have, if you were able to experience that. I want here under my class personal growth. I'm not tolerating. I'm not trying to give you a headache. I'm not trying to build something nga from under my supervision. You could also have mental health depression or mental health aspect problem. That's not gonna happen. However, you might be challenged. You might improve at the end of the day. That's my focus. Now, risk of cyberbullying. When we say cyberbullying, since this is actually existing, what will be cyberbullying RA 109627? If I still remember, I'm not really sure, ha. 109627 or 106927. Let me verify because I may not memorize those kind of I know cyberbullying, bullying RA 10627. I'm so sorry. 10627. That's the correct RA. Those are bullying that happen online. And that is actually being signed by President Benigno Aquino III, the late president. So, cyberbullying is actually existing in our generation, has existed ever since the internet was first introduced to the public. However, the development of social media has exponentially increased the rate of cyberbullying all over the world. Why is this kind of cyberbullying is existing? Because of the rise of this technology advancement, and we might encounter nga hindi ko ni siya kilala. However, they're trying to work on with proxy account in order for them to mock you behind your back. If they don't like you, they could somewhat provide such comment nga pagusto sila da, because they you will not be going to know who they are. Tapos kung sala-sala ka sa interpretation mo, ginabuli ka. As if that you're totally bobo. No. It's okay to not be okay sometime. It's okay to commit mistake. Don't be afraid to commit mistake, because that kind of mistakes could really improve us to be better individual. Mind that. If you will not be going to commit mistake, if you will not be going to commit those kind of mistake, you will not be going to learn to be a better individual. Mind that. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to explain it. Damo gid hambal ko, but it's okay to not be okay. Now let's actually move on to generation of technology users, technological development. So what will be the development here? So Gen Z doesn't know a world where a smart device has been outside of arm's reach. In fact, Gen Z spends, I mean, an average of 3 hours, 38 minutes online on smartphones, almost 50 minutes longer than the average internet users. But I beg to disagree with that one. Why? Because if you will begin to check your users, I mean, your daily usage in your phones, you can see 3 hours and 38 minutes. However, your usage could increase as to 8 hours a day or 10 hours, even more, 24 hours kung gustuhon mo, di ba? But of course, class, you what since in our generation, technology is keep on innovating, but we might need to balance because there will be a bad effect in terms of our physical and mental health. 'Di ba? Magkasakit ka da as sa imo nga mental or physical aspect. So having 24/7 access to the world's information via supercomputers in their pocket has rewarded how Gen Z networks problem solves, communicates, learns, buys, and ultimately how they will show up in the workplace. In this kind of thing, class, in this kind of cases, so having this kind of 24/7 access, we might like know what will be the news around us anytime, especially if you're a busy individual. That's the good thing. However, what will be the bad thing? You could potentially magkasakit ka sa physical mo. For example, ang imo nga you could actually acquire astigmatism, something like those. What will be the mental health problem? You could have a social uh, I mean, mental anxiety, for example, if you might be engaged into specific cases like those. So, but of course, we have to balance everything in order for us to technically not experience those kind of situations. Leaders in the workplace and marketplace can use this knowledge to help Gen Z as employees unlock their potential as customers and increase trust across generations. So in our generations, actually, Glass, we could improve using this technology. Any improvement, if we will begin to use it in a what to call it, a professional manner, in order for you to gain something from that technology advancement, of course, you can definitely learn a lot of things. Hindi kay gamiton ang technology in order for you to play scatter. No, don't be like that. Playing scatter is actually not good because the probability of winning that one is actually not 50-50. 'Di ba? If because it is actually being driven with a with a machine learning model or deep learning model ang amo na nga cases, ang amo na nga game. What is machine learning and ano gina-train na saya actually. There will be nang ano ka na daan, ginapatilaw ka na daan sang a little bit nga maka-cash out kaya until words nga mapirdi ka na until such time nga mabaligya mo na ang imo nga mga personal things, and afterwards why ka na, 'di ba? And then that's the bad thing. So the probability of playing scatter is definitely not 50-50. It's not a tossing coin na 50-50, 50% head, 50% tail. Not like those. But I'm sorry. We're trying to discuss that one because that is still the big impact or the negative impact of those existing for those I mean innovations that we were able to experience nowadays. Okay. Now the categories of technological advancement will be there will be in terms of communication, construction, energy, manufacturing, transportations, and bio-related technology. Let's try to delve in terms of those cases one by one. What is communication? When we say communication, the sending or receiving of messages, way back then, we are trying to work on with messenger, human messenger. How does that work? You write a letter, send out put that in the post office, and then the messenger will begin to carry that one and then send that into the particular receiver. That's how it worked way back then. However, in our generation, you send a message to the particular receiver, and then your message will be sent into the database, and the database will be going to send particularly into specific receiver, and that is in a milliseconds you will be going to receive the message already. That's how it worked in our technology already. Why I'm trying to explain that? Because that's how it worked in information technology manner. Now, in terms of construction, the design and development of new buildings and structures way back then, we are actually using mga mano-mano pa, tulong-tulong pa, birabirahon pa sang PC na or mga ano. However, right now we do have this kind of cranes. For example, of course, by designing that one, we do have, if you're engineering students, you could like manipulate in AutoCAD, yung mga 3D tools that you can design. But sang una ya, banners pa, I mean, mga canvas pa na i-drawing mo. But of course, see the innovations that happen in our generation. There's a lot of improvement actually. However, it is how we'll begin to utilize that one in a good manner. Diba? And a professional manner then. Let's actually deal with the energy. Energy, the power of fuel of technology. Consider the food of technology, and all other areas depends on that. That is the description of energy. Now, when we say energy, way back then we don't have this kind of this kind of advancement. That way back then mga ano pa na, mga kinky pa nang ginapanggamit naton or whatsoever. What will be their mga ginagamit nga energy, like fluorescent, for example. But right now we do have this kind of mga bio-related technology already. I mean, not bio-related, geothermal energies, mga wind turbine, whatsoever. And there is a lot of energy technologies nga ma-observe na natin in our cases, 'di ba? We have the solar energies as well existing, a bit of advance. Then in terms of manufacturing, the design and development of products, in terms of manufacturing before, there is a lot of pretty much the manufacturers may need a lot of what we call this manpower. But right now, through the power of technology, since may mga like sardines, kung sang una mano-mano pa tanan, but right now we do have this kind of machineries nga pwede na ang automatic na ang cans nga ma-form, automatic na nga may mag mag mag-cover sina kag mag ano sa mga sardines, and then everything will ano na lang, less manpower, and that's the best impact, or the positive impact sa mga manufacturers. However, the negative impact pertains to the people or the individuals, madulaan sila work. That's the bad thing. However, in our cases, class, we need to really you have to be wise enough. How could you ace some jobs here? Because if you will be going to if you will be going to work on you're trying to trust 100% sa imong nga work subong, it is actually temporary, because we time to time, as world keeps on innovating, as the technologies keeps on innovating, we might also encounter nga basi gali in a few years to come, we could be replaceable by any technologies. So that, 'di ba, we need to be wise enough kay para we could have permanently may mga knowledge ka pa in different ways, and so on and so forth. You could not potentially have or hindi ka madulaan sang works, for example. Okay, in terms of transportation, the movement of people, of goods, many methods, cars, trucks, airplanes, and trains. Way back then, ang way of transportation is actually definitely not that efficient, since mga carabaos, mga amo pa na kalesa, or whatever. But right now, we do have this transportation, so that cars, using the cars. And however, right now, sa John A. Gani, they do have this kind of automated nga less driverless na, wala na gid sang driver, because they that is actually having a good sensors, mga IoT driven. Their computer scientists were able to train models such those nga makadetect na sa mga barriers or whatsoever. Those are the advancement that happened in our generations actually, and that's the big advancement that happened. And when it comes to bio-related technology related to life, this includes all technology in the medical field. So actually, in my master's class right now, I'm actually studying bioinformatics. When we say bioinformatics, how can we provide solutions in terms of bio-related technology? mga DNA something, mga ano nga problem da pwede gina maubrahan sa bag-o nga system actually. So that's why everything, every field class we can actually create more and more advancement. So definitely in terms of biorelated technology, sang una bi ang mga medicine is not really that fast. Wala pa ta sa mga radio x-ray something, but right now mga x-ray is really ano na ka very advanced na that we could really detect in just a seconds what will be the problem, especially just tracking what will be the fractures in your bodies, for example, it can be detected. What will be the problems in your body? It can be detected in just a seconds. But in the previous generations, wala pa ni sa mga amo ni nga advancement. So see how technology, how the technology really advanced sang amo na nga time lang in just a years, how many years, as the world keeps on improving, the technology is keep on advancing or innovating. So that's actually our discussion. That concludes with our first week topic class. Hopefully that you were able to understand something, and next meeting be I'll begin to send some instructions um in your what we call MS Team, since we can't have any class due to your General Assembly for the College of Business and Accountancy. Make sure this is one of your plus point as well. You will begin to receive +5 if you'll begin to explain at least two sentences. Two sentences, your own perspective, not AI driven, your own perspective. Remember, if you will begin to comment such AI generated automatic zero, you will not be going to receive 5 points. If you will comment such AI generated, you will receive 5 points additional in your quiz or in your oral recitation if you will comment in this video. Make sure to understand what will be your takeaways in this discussion. So I'll not be going to put this specific instruction in our MS team. However, you is if you can't comment, so of course that means to say you were not able to listen. You were not able to watch the video carefully. Thank you so much, everybody. My dear C32 sorry, C32 section. And what will be the format? You have to comment last name only section, and then your two sentences takeaways for the week one discussion. Thank you so much, and see you next meeting, and prepare for anything that might happen next meeting. See you around. Bye bye.